This was a post office. The US government spent hundreds of millions building palaces like this. Then they demolished nearly all of them. Why? Take the Detroit Post Office, built in 1897. It had 4-foot thick granite walls, a clock tower that was 243 feet, the tallest thing in the city for over a decade. But the real show was inside. 26-foot ceilings, 30 varieties of marble imported from all around the world, and a single bench hand-carved from East Indian mahogany. But Detroit wasn't even the biggest one. Chicago's Federal Building was 500,000 square feet of granite with a glass-tiled dome larger than the U.S. Capitol. It held the post office and the federal courts, and in 1918, a 16-year-old Walt Disney worked as a mail sorter. He was inside when a bomb exploded on the ground floor, killing 4 people. Disney walked away unharmed. So why build a literal palace just to sort letters? Because back then, the federal government had almost zero presence in your daily life. For millions of Americans, walking through the doors of a post office was the only physical interaction they would ever have with the United States government. Which is why in 1878, Washington dropped millions of dollars to buy 5 acres on the most expensive real estate in New York City, right beside City Hall, just to build a post office. In Chicago, they combined the Postal Service, federal courts, and government headquarters into one massive complex to project raw power over the fastest growing city in the country. And in Boston, their post office shared the building with the U.S. Sub-Treasury, putting mail sorters right next to the nation's gold and silver vaults. So how do you go from building unshakable granite monuments to tearing them down just a few decades later? Well, it came down to the city's growth. In New York, the volume of mail exploded so fast that workers were literally stacking packages in hallways until the building was hopelessly bottlenecked, forcing the city to move operations to a bigger facility uptown. Then, the automobile killed them. When Chicago's Federal Building opened, mail arrived in horse-drawn wagons. By the 1950s, giant diesel mail trucks were trying to back into loading bays built for horses, gridlocking city traffic every single day. Then, fashions completely flipped. Ornate Beaux-Arts stone carvings were now considered outdated and cluttered-looking, and modern, sleek glass towers were in. But in Pittsburgh, the city bulldozed this gorgeous post office for the sake of urban renewal. Gorgeous stonework gone for wider streets. And in New York, people actually cheered when the wrecking balls arrived. Critics had hated the City Hall post office since the day it opened, nicknaming it Mullet's Monstrosity after the architect Alfred B. Mullet, claiming it was ugly, suffocating, and completely blocking the view of City Hall. So after standing for only a few decades, what actually took their place? Well, in Detroit, Boston, and Chicago, the government tore the masterpieces down and replaced them with concrete boxes and cold glass office towers. Then there was New York and Pittsburgh. After spending millions on a palace that stood for only 59 years, New York leveled the post office in 1939, only to leave a small park area. And in Pittsburgh, after taking 11 years of painstaking work to construct, they demolished the entire building in 1966. Just to build a parking garage. But not all of these palaces were destroyed, though one came dangerously close. Washington, D.C.'s old post office was slated for demolition as early as the 1920s, and again in the 1970s. Critics called it an eyesore and wanted it flattened, but citizens fought back, saving its 315-foot clock tower and massive stone facade from the wrecking ball. Today, that former mail facility is the Waldorf Astoria in Washington, D.C., a world-class luxury hotel centered around a massive 9-story glass atrium where federal mail sorters once stood. It stands as proof that these grand buildings could have had a second life. But for every building saved like D.C.'s, dozens of these stone palaces were wiped off the map. Was destroying them a massive mistake or just necessary progress? Drop your city below and tell me the one historic landmark in your town that never should have been torn down.